The thing that I always like to remind people or explain to people when they come into our school, because they'll gawk at our tuition, but I'm like, think of it this way. I went to college and spent tens of thousands of dollars. I still have some of that student debt that I'm carrying along with me. My first job, when I got out of college, I was ecstatic to make $30,000 my first year out of college. That doesn't even cover the debt that I had when I walked out of there. Yet you look at these people that are coming into training facilities to get a CDL for, let's call it around $5,000. You spend 3.5 weeks training. In the past, you'd get your CDL after that 3.5 weeks. So now let's push it out, 5.5, 6, 7, 8 weeks down the road. But even then, 8 weeks out, $5,000, we can help you fund it. We can help you find funding. And you come out of here making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in your first year.
Welcome to Stream, a trucktractortrailer.com production. My name is Zach Miller. I'm your host, and really excited about this. I mean, I think everybody who's watched Stream knows that the blue-collar entrepreneur and getting more people into the trucking industry is a passion of mine. And I'm so excited to have someone on today who shares that passion with me, Jodie Lethgo with the Truck America Training. Bit of a tongue, it's not a tongue twister. I just can't read very well right now. That's the problem. Jodie, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this, because I see your LinkedIn posts. They're fantastic, but they're so centered around this CDL backlog, this getting more people trained, licensed, and on the road here. So please tell me a little bit about your background and the work that you're doing with Truck America Training.
Yeah, so Truck America, obviously we are in the CDL training space. We are in the state of Kentucky. We are on the borderline of Kentucky and Indiana. So we've taken students over to Indiana and gone through their process as well. So I'm actually very familiar with both Kentucky and Indiana's CDL examination process and testing process. Now, I will say, Kentucky has said, they have it in their interest to expedite the training of CDLs. They absolutely want to get them out there. But at the same time, being working so closely with the examiners, it's very much bottlenecked in the state of Kentucky. The state of Kentucky does not allow third-party examination sites, whereas Indiana does. So in Indiana, I can choose from all kinds of third-party providers when we have Indiana students that come through. However, in the state of Kentucky, we are at the hostage of the state employees that are scheduling us to test. Ever since ELDT has come in, it's gotten even more difficult for us. So it used to be that when a student would come in, let's say, Zach, you walk in the door to the Truck America Training, your first week, you're going to get your CLP, your learner's permit. As soon as you get that permit hot off the press, we were able to schedule you with the state of Kentucky to get you in for an exam after you completed your 160 hours. We weren't going to take you down there before that. So after you completed your 160 hours, that typically lined up with when the state was able to get you in for training. So this finishes the first week, gets a CLP, we get them on the schedule. We complete his 160 hours, and then typically it was the very next day, we get you down to the examination site, and the trucking industry gets a fresh, hot CDL, another CDL holder to get out there on the road and fill a seat, because we all know that we need these CDL drivers. So now, ever since ELDT has come into place, the state is now saying that our students need to complete the 160-hour course before they'll even put them on the schedule for an examination. So because they're so backlogged at the moment, you now, Zach, if you were to come in, you get your CLP still in the first week, but it doesn't matter. We still can't get you on the books. So after your 160 hours is up, so we're like, okay, Zach now has 160 hours. We can certify it. It's done. It's certified. So now they're like, okay, well, still 2 weeks out before we can get him scheduled for an exam. In the meantime, Zach goes and he goes back to his part-time job, or, he's waiting around, and all of a sudden our pass rates are starting to see a severe decline. Now we're starting to see, not only does the timeline get expanded out to get Zach on the road in a truck, but now his success rate has gone from here to here on making it past that first exam. So what's happening now, is we have resources being tied up. We have instructors that are spending time again. We have trucks that are going out again, and we're not collecting additional revenue from anyone that's coming in. It's your tuition that you pay when you walk in the door, but we're having to overextend ourselves to make sure that these guys have the training they need to go down to the examination site.
I mean, this is some scary stuff. There's a lot to digest there. I can tell you what's so interesting is that New York State has the same issue. New York State does not allow third-party testing. They are looking to allow, they're looking to allow third-party testing, though. It's being discussed right now. So there are two things that are being discussed. One is to allow third-party testing. Another is to extend the commercial driver's license permit from 6 months to a full year.
Interesting.
It is, and what's so interesting is that most of the legislature is behind this, and the governor. We do have a new governor here. She's behind this as well. These are, and I find it so fascinating how you have, Indiana, a red-ish state, Kentucky, a red state, and New York, a blue state, and they're having similar type of issues here. I think that's because I think that really speaks to the fact that red or blue, the trucking industry was always kind of a misunderstood and misrespected, across the board, and not really a priority for anybody. Obviously, COVID changed that. The supply chain crunch changed that. And it's so interesting to see these various party lines sort of come together in like the how do we expedite this process? How do we move things forward? It is an interesting time in this industry, but one thing that you said that really scares me, and I know, a Truck America Training backed by Summit, like Logistic, you guys are in good shape. But if the good training centers start to go under, who's going to replace them is going to be the fly-by-night. And all of a sudden, we're going to have a situation where the people who are putting on the road should not be on the road, and it becomes a major safety issue for this country.
Oh, you're right about that. And ELDT has really, just like our phones are ringing off the hook since ELDT has come into place. And for anyone who's not familiar with ELDT, February here, the entry level driver training regulations in Zach wanted a CDL. Now with the ELDT, it is mandated that any person who goes to get an exam done has to be certified by a certified training provider as having completed that course. So that's where we're having issues, is because now the state has said, okay, well, we know you're going to put them through the course, but we're going to wait until you actually do it before we put them on the books.
I mean, how do you even go around that? How do you move this into, I guess, just a process where they can move that quickly to start moving the testing quickly?
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's interesting because I spoke to some other people in the industry, and it's varying state by state on how states have interpreted this regulation. So I know there's some states where they haven't changed how they're doing the scheduling. They're just saying, okay, as long as a certified training provider is going in and saying, yes, they've gotten the training, which again, that falls on the provider. That's our responsibility. We're putting our name out there and our students out there. And I know for our facility, we never would have put someone out there for an exam unless they got their training. But some states have interpreted it differently, whereas Kentucky's really pushed our scheduling back, and other states are still continuing as they had been, as long as the provider says they've gotten the training.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of dancing around an issue here. Not obviously not just me and you on stream, but just in general. Whereas because every state has different sort of standards for how they issue driver's licenses, and every state has their own DMV, or maybe they call it something different, but essentially it's a DMV. But when you talk about trucking and you're talking about interstate commerce, it seems to me that licensing for truck drivers might have to come at the federal level. This whole state by state process might not be the best way to go around it. And I know, more federal regulation is not something most people want to hear, but this piecemeal approach, right. I'm starting to see some serious cracks in this state piecemeal approach here.
That's interesting, Zach. I've actually never thought of it in that light. So it's very interesting that you bring that up, that they try to mandate it from a federal level. And, just trying to wrap my head around what that would look like. And
Oh,
I mean, you saw how long it took us to put ELDT in place. I mean, this was in works for how many years? It got pushed back how many years? I could only imagine what that process would look like.
Oh, I totally know, and I agree with you. I just, from where I'm sitting in New York, there's so many people who live out in Jersey, but they're professional truck drivers in New York. Where where it's like the Indiana-Kentucky border. How many live in Indiana and work in Kentucky, and vice versa? It just seems like maybe the feds don't have to run it, but it just seems
they
like
standardize it across the board.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think we need that standard, and I think that ties into another thing, and it's so interesting because obviously you and I are on the younger side in trucking, but that's another issue we have right now, which is how do we appeal to more young people? How do we get more young people?
Crowd.
Yeah. How do we get them into trucking? How does that work?
We were pushed to go to college. My mom and dad would say, go be a truck driver. Like, they would have never said that to me. We're not really exposed to what that would look like. In trade skills as well, those industries, we absolutely need to do a better job of just making it appealing and showcasing the benefits and showcasing that it is a lucrative career. The thing that I always like to remind people or explain to people when they come into our school, because they'll gawk at our tuition, but I'm like, think of it this way. I went to college and spent tens of thousands of dollars. I still have some of that student debt that I'm carrying along with me. My first job, when I got out of college, I was ecstatic to make $30,000 my first year out of college. That doesn't even cover the debt that I had when I walked out of there. Yet you look at these people that are coming into training facilities to get a CDL for, let's call it around $5,000. You spend 3.5 weeks training. In the past, you'd get your CDL after that 3.5 weeks. So now let's push it out, 5.5, 6, 7, 8 weeks down the road. But even then, 8 weeks out, $5,000, we can help you fund it. We can help you find funding. And you come out of here making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in your first year. What's not attractive about that?
Seriously. I mean, seriously, that's exactly it. And you nailed it with the debt and the whole, even a college job fair. It's like, it's great that they have all these employers come, but there's no guaranteed placement. I mean, if you get a CDL training through a training school that's affiliated with an actual fleet, I mean, you got a job right there.
Guarantee. Yeah.
Like, it's guaranteed. Yep. I agree. It really is that there just needs to be a whole new level of thinking around a lot of these careers and a lot of these, post high school opportunities for people.
Oh, agreed. And, that's really up to us in the industry to really push it and make it look more sexy out there in the market, make it an appealing job. And honestly, I think the income potential there should speak for itself. Not everyone's cut out for college. Not everyone's cut out for an office job. And we don't have to accept that college is the way to go.
No, exactly. We don't. And I think you nailed it with the pay being sexy. And frankly, you see some of these newer model vehicles coming off the line. It's like, those are some gorgeous pieces of equipment right there. That's a much more pleasant office space.
Yes, the technology in these trucks is crazy, which should appeal to the younger generations. Absolutely. I mean, these trucks, they got, all the different safety features, all of the functionality, and it's only going to get better from here with the safety features and the technology that's going into these. Now, it's kind of getting off topic here because I do get this question a lot. Is an autonomous truck going to take my job in the next 10 years? No, it is not. So, these trucks are always going to need a person in them. If anything, it's just going to make your job easier. You are just monitoring that truck at that point.
Yep. And of course, that gives you more opportunity to listen to a podcast like Stream, as you're making,
exactly.
as you're making, $55,000, $60,000, $65,000 a year.
To watch your truck drive itself down the road.
To watch it drive yourself and listen to people like us talk. I mean, how can you beat something like that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Jodie, someone wants to get in touch with you. Someone, maybe they're in the region, they want to sign up for a training class. How would they go about doing that?
They can go online. They can look us up, Truck America Training of KY. We always, our tagline for many years has been run with the big dogs. We'd love to have you come run with the big dogs. So look us up. Like I said, we have some different funding options. You know, the funding that is provided from state and federal is very few and far between, unfortunately, for these trade skills. These trade schools do not qualify for any kind of federal student loan funding. However, we have partnered with some lenders that are great that we've been working with for a while. So if anyone is concerned that cost is an issue, talk to us. Absolutely. And there is still some funding out there for Kentucky residents and Indiana residents that we can tap into and see if a person qualifies for it or not. But if not, like I said, we got some different loan options that would appeal to you. We do have a lot of carriers that come in, a lot of large carriers, local carriers. They come in and recruit from our school, and the majority of these carriers that come in, they offer tuition reimbursement or a sign-on bonus that would take care of your tuition. So that's another thing. It's, you know, as soon as you get out there, the carrier you're going to is more than likely going to take care of whatever you had to put out to pay to get that CDL.
And I think that's, you know, just to end it on that last point, I think that's something else that people who are, you know, potentially interested in trucking should look at, because it's very much a we want you situation. You know, it's a very nice recruitment process, whereas some of corporate America is they're checking boxes and you're a number and, you know, you're not as important, but we're seeing people really go out actively trying to get people into their companies and their fleets and have them stay there for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In fact, we have a calendar. If you walk into our training facility, there's a calendar on the wall and you'll see all these trucking companies written down on various days of the week. We have recruiters come in person, and our rule is if you're coming in, you have to provide food. Because, you know, because we have to cram in 160 hours. So if you're taking our lunchtime, if you're taking our morning time, you're bringing food. So the students love when the recruiters come in because it's a guaranteed lunch. But at the same time, we try to bring in a variety of carriers in, whether that's your national ones, that's your regional ones, that's LTL, and local. You know, a lot of people are like, I want local. I want to come in and do a local job. So that's not always the reality, but we do offer some options where there are some potential for local opportunity as well, just partnering with some of the more local homegrown companies here that do have great training programs in place.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for what you do and what, you know, you and your team are trying to accomplish out there.
Yeah. Thanks for your time today, Zach. And yeah, if anyone in my area in the Kentucky, anywhere in Kentucky is interested in coming to get a CDL, TATCDL.com, Truck America Training CDL. So come see us. We're located in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, just right outside of Louisville.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I kept all my, you know, bracket busting and March Madness sort of issues with Kentucky, saved it for the very end. But, but hey, what are you going to do? If you like the content you see, please be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on stream.